All right, so Trump is officially president again as of a few weeks ago, and man, he is not wasting any time shaking things up.
Definitely a lot to unpack already, and we are only a couple of weeks in.
I know, right? It's wild. This whole crypto strategic reserve thing is huge news.
Huge is an understatement.
Seriously, though, I mean, just a few years ago, the idea of the U.S. government holding Bitcoin, forget a whole reserve, would have been crazy. But here we are.
Yeah, who would thought? And he went straight for the big coins, too. Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP.
Solana, Cardano. The dude dropped this bomb on Truth Social over the weekend.
And of course, the markets went nuts. Bitcoin over 90,000, Ethereum over 2,400. Bloomberg even called out Cardano's 50% surge. It's wild.
Yeah. CNN had some interesting reporting on that. And Reuters. So many outlets are covering this right now.
Makes sense. This is huge. But it's not just about the prices, right? I think the big question is why those specific coins?
Right, exactly. Okay, so let's get into it. Bitcoin and Ethereum, sure, no surprise there. But XRP, it's still got that SEC lawsuit hanging over its head.
Yeah, and Solana, it's had, well, some network issues, hasn't it?
Exactly. So help me understand, why those five?
Well, I think, and I've been following Trump for a while, he's always been a bit of a wild card, right? And this move, it really throws a wrench in things. It's disruptive, and he likes that.
Yeah, that's definitely his style. Disrupt first, questions later.
Exactly. And I think by including XRP, despite the lawsuit, well, it's like he's sending a message. Like he's saying he's not afraid to take on the establishment, even, or maybe especially, in the crypto world.
That's an interesting take. Almost like he's trying to force the SEC's hand, maybe.
It's possible. Solana, despite those issues you mentioned, it's still incredibly fast, scalable too. And maybe Trump's looking at that potential. Like if this crypto strategic reserve is going to handle a ton of transactions, Solana could be a key part of that.
Yeah, makes sense. And Cardano, what's your take there?
Well, it's known for its focus on security, sustainability, and that's got to be appealing to the government, right? It screens long-term, stable investment.
That's true.
Plus, Charles Hoskinson, Cardano's founder, he's been pretty vocal about governments adopting crypto, so maybe Trump sees that as a positive. Compared to some of the more, anti-establishment coins out there, Cardano seems more, government-friendly.
Okay, so we've got some ideas about why these specific coins. But now I'm thinking about the bigger picture. Why a crypto strategic reserve at all?
I think it's partly about, remember how we really made an effort to court the crypto community during the campaign? I think this is part of that. It's a big win for the industry, shows he's serious about crypto.
And it definitely gives crypto more legitimacy, right?
Yep.
The U.S. president openly embracing crypto, it sends a powerful message. This could have ripple effects globally, couldn't it? Like other countries might start to, consider their own crypto strategies?
Absolutely. This isn't just about the U.S. This could be a game changer on a global scale. But I gotta acknowledge, not everyone's happy about this.
Oh, yeah, I was just about to bring that up.
Vanity Fair, for example, brought up a good point. Trump's own company, World Liberty Financial, they have crypto investments. So there's a potential conflict of interest here, and I think that's a legitimate concern.
Yeah, is this really about supporting crypto, or is it about, potentially benefiting himself?
That's a tough one. It's hard to say for sure right now, but the optics aren't great. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But it's not just people outside crypto who are raising eyebrows.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting, right? It's not just like the usual anti-crypto crowd. Reuters actually had a piece quoting analysts who are questioning why XRP, Solana, Cardano...
They're not real currencies, they're just tech investments.
Yeah, exactly. And this kind of brings up this debate that's been going on forever in the crypto world. What is a cryptocurrency? Is it digital gold? Is it for everyday transactions? Is it a platform for building apps? Nobody can seem to agree.
You've got Brian Armstrong, Coinbase CEO, diehard Bitcoin maximalist. He says the reserve should only hold Bitcoin.
Right. And then you've got folks like Joe Lonsdale calling this whole thing a crypto bro scheme paid for by taxpayers.
It's crazy how divided everyone is.
Yeah, and there are good arguments on both sides. Bitcoin, it's got history, it's secure, decentralized. But those newer coins, they offer things Bitcoin just doesn't. So it's tough.
It's like everyone's trying to figure out where they stand in this new world. And even with this news, there's still no clear consensus.
Which is kind of cool, honestly. Shows how dynamic the crypto space is. It's not just one big echo chamber. Everyone's got their own perspective, their own ideas. It's constantly evolving.
Okay, so we've got Trump's reasons, the market's reaction, whole lot of opinions. But now I want to know, like practically speaking, what does this mean for the market going forward?
Ah, now that's the million-dollar question. And I think to answer that, we've got to take a closer look at some technical analysis.
Okay, perfect. Because right now I feel like I'm trying to read tea leaves, like, is this a good thing, a bad thing? What's going on?
Yeah, I hear you. So thankfully, we've got some analysis from wave traders, and their take is that this whole rebound we've seen in crypto lately, it could actually be the start of a new bull run.
Oh, really? That'd be incredible. But how can they tell?
Well, they're not just looking at price, they're looking at trading volume, momentum, all sorts of stuff. And what they're seeing is a specific pattern in the charts. They call it a complex correction pattern. Basically, it means the market is like taking a breather, shaking off some of the excess hype, and then getting ready for the next big move.
Okay, so it's not just like random ups and downs. There's actual logic to it.
Exactly. But of course, the big question is it a bull run or another bear market brewing? And the signals, they're pointing upward, which is exciting.
Confluence of signals, huh? Sounds pretty convincing. But what should we be watching for, like specifically to see if this bull run theory holds water?
All right, so first, keep an eye on the trading volume. Is it going up consistently? Because if it is, that means this isn't just some short-term pump and dump, driven by hype. It means there's real buying power behind this move.
So it's not just a few whales moving the market. It's got to be widespread participation. Makes sense. What else?
Second, watch Bitcoin's dominance. If it starts to outperform the rest of the market, especially those altcoins that have pumped like crazy, it could mean investors are getting a little more cautious. Going back to the safety of Bitcoin, the digital gold, as they call it.
So even though it's exciting to see Cardano and Solana doing so well, we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves. Bitcoin's still the king.
Exactly. And look, this is just one interpretation, right? It's important to remember that there are always different viewpoints, different ways of looking at the market. So do your research. Don't just blindly follow anyone's predictions.
Always good advice. Okay, so before we jump into what all this means long term, let's just take a breath, process everything we've learned so far. We've got a president who's all in on crypto, markets going haywire, and the crypto world, well, they're still trying to figure out what it all means.
It's a lot. And the craziest part is this isn't just about crypto. It's about the future of finance, the whole system. It's like we're watching a paradigm shift in real time.
It's wild, right?
Yeah.
Are we moving away from the traditional financial systems? Are we heading towards something completely new? I have so many questions.
I know, me too. So many questions. It really is. And it gets even more interesting when you start thinking about the long term.
Totally. This move, it says a lot about how governments, especially the U.S., are starting to view crypto. This isn't just about investing anymore. It's bigger than that. It's about power, control, maybe even the future of money itself.
Right. It's a huge shift from the Biden administration. They were all about regulation, control, remember? But Trump, he's embracing it, almost weaponizing it.
It's like he's saying, hey, world, the U.S. isn't just going to play in the crypto space. We're going to dominate it.
Exactly. And that's got to be a little unsettling for other countries, right? Think about it. If the U.S. becomes the crypto capital of the world, like Trump's been saying, it could trigger a whole new kind of arms race. A crypto arms race, you could call it.
A crypto arms race.
Okay.
Okay, now you've got my attention. What does that even mean? Like, are we going to be stockpiling Bitcoin instead of nukes?
It's a dramatic image, but you're not far off. Think about it. The U.S. dollar, it's the world's reserve currency. That gives the U.S. a ton of power. But what if cryptocurrencies, especially ones backed by governments, start to gain traction? Other countries, especially the ones who aren't exactly fans of the current U.S.-dominated system, they might feel like they have to create their own crypto reserves just to keep up.
So it's like a power play, a way for other countries to challenge U.S. dominance, but with Bitcoin and Ethereum instead of missiles.
You got it. And that raises so many questions. What would a world with multiple national crypto reserves even look like? Would it be more stable? More volatile? Would it lead to more cooperation or more conflict? It's a whole new game.
And it goes beyond governments too, right? We've talked before about central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. How does that fit into all of this?
It's all connected. A lot of experts think that this crypto strategic reserve is actually a step towards the U.S. launching its own CBDC, a digital dollar.
Really? So they're buying up all this crypto now as like practice for creating their own digital currency.
Exactly. It's like a real-world experiment for them. They're learning how to manage and transact with digital assets at a massive scale.
So they're getting their feet wet before jumping into the deep end with a digital dollar. Makes sense. But all this talk about CBDCs, I gotta be honest, it's still kind of confusing to me. It's not the same as using like Apple Pay or
Yeah.
Venmo, right?
Nope, not at all. Those are just payment platforms. They work within the existing financial system. A CBDC is different. It's a digital version of a country's actual currency, issued and backed by the central bank. Think of it like a digital dollar issued by the Fed, but with way more possibilities.
Okay, I'm starting to see the difference, but how does this connect back to the crypto strategic reserve?
Well, some people think that this whole volatility we've seen in the crypto market lately, with Bitcoin dropping like 30% a few weeks ago, could actually work in the government's favor.
Wait, seriously? Wouldn't they make people less likely to trust a government-backed digital currency? If crypto's so volatile, why would we want a digital dollar that could do the same thing?
It's a good point. Volatility definitely breeds distrust. But, and this is the interesting part, it also highlights the need for something more stable, more reliable. If the government can launch a CBDC that's seen as safe, secure, easy to use, well, it could position the digital dollar as a kind of safe haven from all the craziness of the crypto market.
So they're using the chaos of crypto to make the case for a more controlled, centralized digital currency. That's strategy, I guess.
Right. It's pretty clever. But here's the thing, and this is really important for all of us to understand. The implications of a US-issued CBDC are huge, and they're not all good.
Okay, let's break that down then. What are the potential upsides and what are the downsides of this whole digital dollar thing? Lay it on me.
All right, so the people who are pro-CBDC, they argue that it could completely revolutionize finance, make transactions faster, cheaper, more secure. They say it could cut down on fraud and money laundering, which are huge problems in the system now.
Yeah, I could see how that would be appealing,
Yeah.
especially for businesses and governments. But what about us regular folks? What are the potential drawbacks? What's the catch?
The biggest concern is privacy. Think about it. A CBDC could give the government access to our financial data like never before. They could track what we buy, where we send money, even our political donations.
Okay, yeah, that part doesn't sound so great. I mean, I want my transactions to be secure and efficient, but I don't want the government knowing every detail of my financial life.
I hear you. It's a legitimate concern. And that's why it's so important that we have these conversations now before any decisions are made. We need to demand transparency from our leaders. We need to make sure that any CBDC they create has strong privacy protections built in. We can't be passive about this.
So we need to be informed and we need to make our voices heard.
Got it. But let's play devil's advocate for a second. Let's say they do launch a digital dollar and it does have strong privacy protections. What are some of the potential benefits that we, the everyday people, might actually experience? Give me some optimism here.
Okay, fair enough. So for starters, sending and receiving money could get a whole lot easier and cheaper. Imagine sending money to your family overseas instantly with almost no fees.
Okay, yeah, that would be a game changer for a lot of people. Right, especially for folks who rely on those remittance services that charge an arm and a leg. And it could be a huge deal for people without bank accounts. Think about it. Millions of Americans are unbanked or underbanked right now. They rely on check cashing places, payday loans. It's a vicious cycle. A digital dollar could give them a better way to manage their money, more affordable, more accessible.
You know, that's a really important point. We don't always talk about financial inclusion, but it's a huge issue.
Yeah.
And a CBDC could potentially help address that.
Absolutely. It could level the playing field in a lot of ways. And there are other potential benefits, too. Think about how the government distributes benefits, things like Social Security, stimulus checks. A CBDC could make that whole process more efficient, less prone to fraud. And it could open up new possibilities for microlending, peer-to-peer payments, things like that.
So there are some potential upsides,
Yeah.
but it sounds like it all comes down to the design, the implementation. If it's done right, with privacy and security as top priorities, maybe a digital dollar could actually be a positive thing.
That's the key. But we can't just wait and see what happens. We have to be active participants in shaping this future. We have to educate ourselves, understand the technology, the risks, the rewards. We have to talk to our elected officials, make sure they're hearing our concerns.
It's all about being informed and engaged. Right.
Exactly. And speaking of being informed, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about Trump's crypto strategic reserve, the potential for a global crypto arms race, and this whole digital dollar dilemma. It's a lot to process.
Yeah, my brain is definitely full, but it's important stuff. It affects all of us.
Absolutely. And remember, this is just the beginning of the conversation. Finance is changing, and it's changing fast. Buckle up, because it's going to be a wild ride.
Okay, so we've got Trump pushing crypto, maybe setting off a global crypto arms race. And then there's this whole digital dollar thing looming on the horizon. Honestly, where do we even start trying to figure out what this means for the average American?
Yeah, it really is a lot to think about, but you hit the nail on the head. It's about the average American, like, what does all this mean for us, on a practical level?
Right, exactly. Like,
Right.
how is this going to affect our wallets, our lives, our, freedom even?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, we're in uncharted territory here. The decision's being made now. They're going to have ripple effects for years to come.
No, no pressure, right. All right, so we've got Trump pushing crypto. Like, he's really going all in on this, maybe sparking a global crypto arms race. And then we've got this potential digital dollar hanging over our heads. Like, where do we even start to unpack what this means for everyday people?
Let's start with the US dollar itself. I mean, if cryptocurrencies, especially ones backed by governments, start to become really popular, it could threaten the dollar's position as the world's reserve currency, you
And
know?
what would that mean for us, practically speaking?
Yeah.
Inflation, a recession. Should I be buying gold and stocking up on canned goods like those doomsday preppers?
Whoa there. Let's not get too apocalyptic just yet. I mean, if the dollar weakens, it's probably going to be a gradual thing, not some sudden collapse. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on. A weaker dollar means imported goods get more expensive, and that hits consumers right in the wallet.
So basically paying more for everything.
Yeah,
That's not great.
right. And then there's the whole privacy issue, which we talked about earlier. I mean, if the US does launch a digital dollar, it could give the government a lot more insight into our financial lives than a lot of people are comfortable with.
Yeah, that's what keeps me up at night. Honestly, I like the idea of faster transactions, lower fees, maybe even some new financial tools that could be cool. But not if it means sacrificing my privacy.
I totally get it. It's a valid concern. And that's why we need to be having these conversations now. We have to make sure that any digital dollar that gets created has really strong privacy protections built in from the ground up.
So we need to be informed and we need to speak up.
Got it. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that they do implement a digital dollar and they do prioritize privacy. What are some of the actual benefits we might see as everyday people?
Well, for one thing, sending and receiving money could get a whole lot easier and cheaper, both here in the US and internationally. Like, imagine sending money to your family overseas instantly with practically no fees.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah,
Especially for people who rely on those remittance services that charge like 10% or even more just to send money home.
exactly. And it could be a game changer for people who don't have bank accounts either. Right now, there are millions of Americans who are unbanked or underbanked. They have to rely on check cashing places and payday lenders that charge outrageous fees. A digital dollar could give them a more affordable and accessible way to manage their finances.
That's a great point. A digital dollar could actually help level the playing field and make the financial system more inclusive. Exactly. And there are other potential benefits too. Like, it could make it easier for the government to distribute benefits like Social Security or stimulus checks directly to people, which would cut down on fraud and administrative costs. It could also open up some really interesting possibilities for things like microlending and peer-to-peer payments.
So there's definitely potential for positive change, but it sounds like the key is in the design and the implementation. If it's done right with privacy and security as top priorities, then maybe a digital dollar could be a good thing.
That's the hope, but we can't just sit back and hope for the best. We have to be involved in shaping this future. We have to educate ourselves about the technology, the risks, and the potential rewards, and we have to engage with our elected officials and make sure our voices are heard.
It all comes back to being informed and engaged, right? Well, I think we've done a pretty good job of unpacking this whole complex situation today. We've gone from Trump's crypto strategic reserve to a potential global crypto arms race to the implications of a U.S.-issued digital dollar. That's a lot to digest.
It is. But it's important stuff. We're talking about the future of finance, and that's something that affects all of us.
Absolutely. So to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this wild ride. Remember, this conversation is just getting started. The world of finance is changing faster than ever before, and we'll be here to guide you every step of the way. So hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next episode, where we'll continue to explore this fascinating and rapidly evolving landscape. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged.